would like to thank Edra for this opportunity. It's quite new for me to speak not through a webinar, but through a webinar in the United States. So that's cool. I want to say also good morning or good afternoon to everyone. Here in Italy is 7 o'clock in the night. So the scenery behind me is my house. It's not my office. I just wanted to go back to my place. Also because lockdown is starting from tomorrow, and we after 8 o'clock night we need to be at home. So I didn't want to be stuck all night long in my university office, and so I'm here in my house. No problem. My talk today will be about approach to renal biopsy in dogs with acute and chronic kidney disease. And my name is Luca Aresу. I'm working right now in the Department of Veterinary Science in the University of Turin. So maybe you don't know so much about me or my background, scientific background. So I graduated in Turin, and it was 2004 when I finished my graduation in veterinary medicine. When I moved to Geneva for my PhD, that was a PhD based on trying to understand and use the methods to diagnose renal biopsy and canine glomerular disease through renal biopsy. So I learned how to approach histology, immunofluorescence, and electron microscopy in renal biopsy from dogs and cats. And this was a human nephropathology service, and I learned a lot about renal disease, and most of the things I learned I will report to you today, and are basically my routine day work on diagnostic service. Then after I finished my PhD, I moved to Padua, which is northeast of Italy, and I stayed there for nearly 9 years. Then I moved back again in Switzerland, and then at the end I got back to Turin in 2008, where now I'm working as associate professor, and I'm also coordinator of a veterinary medicine degrees. And you probably don't know a lot about Turin, but probably you know about him. Heard is Cristiano Ronaldo, and he is playing in Juventus, and Juventus is the principal team here in Turin. Probably you heard about him, even if we know that soccer is not that much famous in United States as much as in Italy or Europe. So get to the point. As I told you, I started my PhD in 2004, and I started to love renal disease and renal pathology, and this has become an interest growing and growing during the years, and now this interest is expressed into a veterinary renal pathology service that is European wide. So we cover many countries in Europe, and we receive renal biopsy from different veterinarians through France, Germany, Switzerland, Spain, and also some countries from the north of Europe, such Sweden and the UK. This service is very similar to another one that is in the United States, that is called International Veterinary Renal Pathology Service. I will tell you a little bit about later on in the slides. And we work with similar methods, similar reports, and similar techniques to approach renal biopsy. All what I will talk to you about tonight is coming from a very big work that's been made by the people you read here in this paper, who contributed to write down this paper. It's been a long work, but it took at least 4 or 5 years, starting from 2010 to 2015, where we met as a pathologist. Once a week, and we tried to score and reevaluate renal biopsy. Our goal was to create a classification of glomerular disease based on light microscopy, immunofluorescence, and electron microscopy. So we needed to review several biopsy and then get live and speak and try to to solve problem or issue where we didn't agree sometimes on some lesion, but we got to the end. And in 2013 we published the first article on veterinary pathologies, and where we define the classification of glomerular disease. The whole thing was sponsored by the WSAVA, so the World Small Animal Veterinary Association. And on the other side, there were people from the clinics, so internal medicine, that have the aim to focus more on the clinical parameters of the dog that were biopsied, and also the therapy approaches, and trying to join and to mix our pathological data and the clinical data. Honestly, even after 5 years, the pathologists, I'm not telling you this because I'm a pathologist, but the pathologists run faster than the clinician. But this is pretty normal because we have the tissue and we work on the tissue. We don't need to ask anyone, and to anyone we have our material and we work on that. But if you are a clinician, you always need the owner. You need to talk. Maybe he doesn't answer. Maybe he doesn't doesn't have so much compliance for follow-up, and we know this is hard work. But at the end of the day, the result from the pathologist side, was that through the classification and the parameters that we identified through light microscopy, immunofluorescence, and electron microscopy, we were able to differentiate two very huge categories of glomerular disease. There were immunomediated glomerular disease versus non-immune-mediated glomerular disease. And with the techniques we have now, we can do it. They are a little bit expensive, of course, because electron microscopy is very expensive, but they offer opportunity to treat dogs in two different ways. So with immunosuppressive therapy when it's an immune-mediated disease, non-immunosuppressive therapy when it's not immune-mediated disease. But you need to know that. And before 2015, pathologists used to analyze renal biopsy as other biopsy coming from other part of the body. So just through hematoxin and eosin, and I will tell you more about this today, and not doing immunofluorescence and electron microscopy. So basically today I would like to go through the renal biopsy in terms how to proceed to do a renal biopsy, but especially when to do a renal biopsy. I don't want to get more on the clinical side of that, not too much at least, because it's not my work, but at the end, after years and years of experience, having talking to different clinicians and in the renal biopsy, I can tell you that I learned a little bit about when doing a renal biopsy, but I just want to tell you when not to do a renal biopsy. That's my principal focus for this third part. The second part will talk about how to do a renal biopsy, but again, not as echographist doing a renal biopsy, but just how to approach the renal biopsy when you took from the kidney and what you need to do to send to the lab. That usually is one of the most difficult parts in the flow of the veterinary when we do a renal biopsy. What do I have to do with my renal biopsy? How do I cut my renal biopsy for light microscopy and electron microscopy? That's the normal question, the question that people ask more. And then the really fast slides based on why you should go on a renal biopsy, so to differentiate glomerular disease in such way that you are able then to treat the dogs or the cats. So when you decide to do a renal biopsy, you always need to start thinking and doing a sort of diagnostic algorithm to decide what is the clinical benefit for the dog or the cats to do a renal biopsy. And you always need to think about the safety and the quality of the procedure. When I say safety, I mean usually the dogs and cats with renal disease can be in a really critical situation, and so you need to stabilize the dog to do a renal biopsy because it's a quite aggressive procedure to do in a dog in an acute phase especially. But safety is always joined to quality, because if you do in safety, you are able to obtain good quality material, and so to have good results from the lab, but also to divide the renal biopsy, but it's very tiny material you will see later on, to divide and for light microscopy, electron microscopy, and immunofluorescence.